Hello, it's Rachel from the So Happy Quilters Association, and today I'm going to be rotary cutting the quilts that I recently sent off to Bernie to be long-armed. If you watch my Facebook Live, you would have seen me open them on in the boxes, and I need to rotary cut them so I can prepare them ready for the binding. So the first one I'm going to be working on is this lovely one, and I'll tell you a little bit about this quilt first of all. So this was actually a kit that you could buy from Alice Caroline. I don't know if they still do this particular kind of quilt, but what you had to do was make each block, and then it was appliqued onto a bigger block of fabric, which you can just about see there. And then when you sewed each block together, you had these lovely little stars to go in the middle, which covered up the joins, I suppose, of the quilt. And in my true style, obviously I love it because it's Liberty fabric, and Alice Caroline just does Liberty fabric, but also I have hexiformed them. The way the pattern was designed was to do it in traditional English paper piecing, but as you know, I love hexiform, and we'll probably do a video completely about hexiform at some point, and I'll tell you why I love that so much. And it was a lot quicker to do in hexiform, and also it gave it more sturdiness when it went on each block. So I did make this probably about 2 years ago, and I just haven't had a chance really to, I've been so busy, I haven't had a chance to send it off to be long-armed. So it's been off to the lovely Bernie Corner, who is from Northumberland. She has a most beautiful long-arm machine. So I posted them off to her. I don't usually post my precious quilts off to people. I usually go to a local long-armer, but I literally just have not had the time to be able to fit in and take it to a local long-armer. So I put them in the post, sent them to Bernie, had a little conversation with her on the phone about what patterns that I wanted. And so with this one, we decided to go for a butterfly pattern. Obviously butterfly is all about regrowth, so I thought that's quite good. And we went for a pale blue stitches because there is a lot of blues in it, and also on the back of the fabric there is a lot of blues, and I really love it. I'm really happy as to how it's come out, and as you can see, so the next step really is to rotary cut the edges, all these edges off. And you're probably wondering why there is so much fabric on the edge. When it goes onto a long arm machine, you can't just put the quilt and the backing onto the machine there. The machine, because of the size of it, it needs extra fabric to pull it tight. And I'm sure there's some YouTube videos out there somewhere of long armers and how they do it. So that is why there's a lot of fabric, and that's why your long armer will ask you to send lots of fabric. And so we're going to get on and cut the edging, and I'm going to show you how I personally do it, and then I can show you the end result. So let's get on with that. So as you can see, what I've done is I've pushed the quilt further on so that I've got the bottom edge on my cutting table. I'm just going to quickly tell you a bit about my cutting table. These are actually IKEA breakfast bars, and they're perfect height for when you're rotary cutting. You're not bending down to rotary cut, and you've got lots of shelves on one side, and then you've got obviously where the breakfast stools go the other side, so there's lots of space. And I have, when I've done my sewing workshops in here, I have had 4 people in here rotary cutting, so it's a really big space. And as you can see by the size of the quilt, it is really great. And yes, I know I'm very lucky to have this space. I know that some fabric shops do offer their spaces for you to go and rotary cut their your quilts, so there's always alternatives. So what we need to do is to cut off the edges and to make this nice and straight. So I have this ruler. This is a Lee Summit ruler. I've had it for a long time. I'll probably upgrade it to a different make at some point, and then I have this little handle on it. I don't always use a handle. This is a prim handle that sticks onto here, and this ruler is a 6.5 by 23. It's quite a good length to be doing your quilt rotary cutting, so you can use that. I've also got different rotary cutters. As you know, if you've watched my other videos, I do love Fiskars rotary cutter, so I do have different sizes. So I have the usual 45mm, and this is a lovely lilac one, and yes, I did very much buy it because of the colour. And we're actually going to be stocking these in our SHQA shop, so do check out our website and the shop section, you'll find these. And I just love the lilac colour, really. And then you have a 60mm rotary cutter. This is also Fiskars. These are really great because they have what I call an on-off button, so you turn it on like that and you press the button to the off button. And then Fiskars also do one which has a crinkly edge, so it has like a pinking shears edge, so you can do that as well. I don't use this one as much as this one. This is always my go-to, so I'm going to pop those back into my pot and we will start rotary cutting. So as you can see, I'm just going to roll it up a little bit. So as you can see, there is a bit of fabric down here. I'm going to start working on this side. I don't think it really matters which side you start working on, but I just do this, and obviously I am right-handed, so I'm going to rotary cut that way. There's lots of obviously what they call rules with rotary cutting, which really need to be enforced because rotary cutters can be a bit dangerous, and obviously they're very, very sharp. So what's good about these particular rotary cutters is it does have that on-off button, and so if you've turned it on and then you put it down, always make your brain tell yourself to turn it off, because if you're rotary cutting with friends, or even you get distracted and you've got that blade out and you come back, you can accidentally cut yourself, and so that would not be a good thing. And when you are rotary cutting, you should always rotary cut away from you, never come towards you, always away. Even if you're going to go away and you're going to put it down and you're going to come back, do not be tempted to use it like a saw because the fabric doesn't like it. You're always just going to go forward, forward, forward. And what's really good about when it's long armed is that they have to do this edging. You can see like a straight line stitch down here and a straight line stitch across the bottom. So what you could do is use that as your guide, which is definitely what I'm going to do. And then when you've rotary cut it, that you're then going to do the binding after. So this is how I'm going to get started. I am going to use my ruler, and I'm lining up with my measurements on my cutting board underneath. This is an AO cutting board, and you just need to make sure that you can, when you look from here, so I'm lining it up on my 24 line, and when I'm looking up the ruler, as you can see, it is going off, and you don't want to do that because you're going to start, as you move the fabric, it's going to start coming over here. So what I will then do is give it a little bit of a pull. Once you get the first bit done, it's kind of okay. You just need to make sure you get that first bit right. And also because you, on a long arm, you have got this extra line, so you can put your ruler onto that line. And I'm going to cut it a half an inch from that line. And if you get a ruler that has like this one, 6.5 inch edge, instead of like trying to remember that you need to do it on there, you can just use your half-inch line on your ruler. And so I'm going to try that again. I'm going to put my half-inch line on the line, the stitching line that came from the long armers, and then I'm going to, as you can see, it's not 100% straight, which is never going to be, and then I'm going to put my ruler a little bit far off the fabric, because you need to start the rotary cutter down here, and then you're going to go up. And the other thing to remember as well is that obviously your cutting board is not made by the same people as your ruler, and so your lines are not going to be 100% perfect, and obviously stitching and quilting is not perfect anyway. And so the best thing to do is just have it as a guide. So that's what I would do. So I'm putting my little yellow line on the 24 line, and then going up straight. Once you've done that first cut, it's going to be so much easier because you can then use the lines on this side of the board. So let's do the first one. So I've turned my rotary cutter on. I am keeping my hand quite firmly on the ruler, because if you don't do that, the ruler is going to move as you rotary cut it. So you're just going to put there, but obviously do not put your fingers over like that, because that would be another problem. So just keep it here. Obviously we do have that handle, so if sometimes I use it and I hold it like that, generally I tend to do it like this. So I'm going to line on the 24, up that line there, and then I'm going to do rotary cut. So you're going to put the rotary cutter along the side of the ruler, and you're just going to go like that, and that should be your first cut. So that looks wonderfully straight, and obviously the binding is going to go over that anyway, so that shouldn't be a problem. If once you've cut it you think it's gone off too far, then obviously you can go back and do another cut. So now what you do is you're going to pull the quilt down, because you need to cut further up here. So you're going to pull it down like this, and you're going to do that, and now you've got this line that you can actually concentrate on. So I'm going to line that up to there, and you can see where I've cut it is going to sit on the line of the rotary cutting board. So now I'm going to do my 1/2 inch again. I'm still following the line going up there, and then I'm going to do another cut. So once you've got like the process of it, it can be quite quick. So you're just going to move it down like that, and then you're going to line. So you're going to line that up again, line up your 1/2 inch there again, and I can see that it's slightly going over to the left again. So I'm going to move it just to give it a little bit of a, because you will kind of want to keep it like that. Okay, and then you're going to do that, and then you're going to rotary cut it again. And like I said, make sure you, when you've got your hand on it, just keep it really, really strong on there, because that puts a bit of pressure. And obviously always get your little bits of wadding and that away, and then you're going to pull it down. And now you can see we are getting to the ends of the end of the quilt. So I'm going to put that there. And again, I'm lining up. So I've lined up the ruler. I've lined up the quilt to the lines on the mat. I've lined up the ruler to the edge. I'm keeping the ruler edge going all the way up on that line of the stitching from the long arm in, and then you're going to go like that. Now what you can do, because we're near to the edge, rather than pull it down, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my hand to here, move that to there, and then go a bit higher, because we're very, very close to the top. Now you could look at also as well, when you're thinking about saving fabric, sometimes I look at it and think, okay, do I want to cut it that way, so I've got this big piece, or do I actually want to cut it that way, so I've got that piece, to save any scraps that you've got. But because this is the biggest piece, I am going to cut straight up. Sometimes I get to there and then I cut that way, but we're going to carry on. So again, you're going to line it up to the mat. I need to come down a bit more. And obviously, as the quilt is getting heavier, it could start sliding off the end. But I do have a solution for that, which I will show you in a minute. So you are going to line up again, put it to there, line it up, and voila, that is your first edge cut. So I will just pull that down, and push it up and show you how that looks. So now you've got a beautifully cut edge that you could do your binding with. I was just talking about the fact that when you've got a big quilt out like this and you're rotary cutting one side, this side could actually start falling down and slipping, because obviously the rotary cutting boards are quite slippery. So there is a really good solution, and that is pattern weights. And this is by a company called Foxglove and Field, and they do really, really beautiful pattern weights, which are in Liberty fabric. Of course they are. And so what you can do, they are quite heavy. I mean, it says at the weight on the bottom, it says they are made in Lincolnshire, 290 grams. So they have these ones, and then they have little cute ones which are 130 grams. What you could do, if you want to, is you could use these at the top to basically give it a bit of weight to stop it from moving while you're rotary cutting it. There are loads of other pattern weights you can use. There's like, you know, and also you can make your own as well, but these are quite cute. And I really like these. So that is a really good tip for you. Now that I've done two sides, you've obviously got this extra, this other one that's now been rotary cut. So you can use that as well to line up along the bottom of your cutting board, which makes it easier for cutting there because you've now got two to work with. You've got this one here and then you've got this one here. So we're going to carry on cutting it round. So this is the second quilt that I sent off to Bernie to be long-armed, and this again is an Alice Caroline block of the month. It is a flower garden with a pathway going round it, and because I did it in hexiform and there's no wadding, it's literally just the backing of the fabric, this is going to be much easier to rotary cut because you've got a really firm edge of where your hexiform is and you can follow that, so it's much easier to do. So I'm going to get on and rotary cut this one. As you can see, this one has got a really big piece of fabric onto it, and obviously I mentioned earlier about on the long arm machine it needs to have extra fabric. So rather than trying to contend with rotary cutting all this bit of fabric, I'm just going to get my scissors and cut to there. So I will get my lovely Fiskars Moomin scissors. Moomins is another thing I really love. And then I'm not going to worry too much about how I'm cutting it because I just want to get to there. And then we're going to start rotary cutting. So this was actually an Alice Caroline block of the month that I did, and again I've hexiformed it, I haven't English paper pieced it. I did build it up into the whole 12 months and I did it in one hit over about 3 months because I really like to do that. So I have actually swapped around the fabrics. I haven't gone with what the block of the month was, I've just swapped around the fabrics, but I'm just going to talk to you about where each block was. So if you can kind of see the line there to there to there to there, that is one block, and each block of the month you had about 3.5 to do, I think it was, and then here is a half of a block, that's a half of a block, and each block made up like a hexagon shape, and they had diamonds or hexagons and triangles in it, and yeah, it's a really, really lovely quilt, and I'm really happy about how it came on, so I'm going to carry on rotary cutting it. Got to the end of the third row before we do the last line, and as you can see I've got a lot of fabric there and a lot of fabric here. So what I was talking about earlier was deciding on which bit of fabric would you want to save. So I'm actually going to save this bit, so rather than cut it up there, I'm just going to use my scissors and literally just cut to there. So then when you cut that way, we're going to have a much bigger piece of fabric. So this is a quilt that I completely designed myself, and a lot of people have asked me how did I decide into which fabrics I was going to put together. Well, actually I brought a pack of fat quarters from Liberty in lockdown, so 2021 actually is when I brought them, and it came in a pack of fat quarters, and there were 20 fat quarters, and that's exactly what I've used. So I haven't actually made the decision which ones went together. Liberty did that for me, which was great, and then all I did was add in these triangles. So I decided to do the quilt all in diamonds and triangles to make a hexagon shape, and then I just calculated what I needed for these triangles. And then of course when you had the end bits, you had like a triangle, then a half of a hexie. So I put in this rectangle here. I decided to put this bright red in just to give it a real contrast for the edge. This obviously did not come in the fat quarter pack, but I just put those in. So now I'm going to get on and rotary cut this one. This one has been done in a white stitching from the Longarmed, and it had a cotton with scissors, and it had a needle, and it had a sewing machine, and I thought, yeah, it's perfect. This is the quilt that I actually took to Utah last year when we were on a 10-hour flight to Utah, and I literally sewed two of these whole lines together. I'd already sewed these, and obviously those were made, but I literally sewed two whole lines together, and it was trailing into the aisle on the plane, and yeah, and I got a lot of it done. So I've now rotary cut all four of the quilts that I received back from the Longarmed, and it's taking me about an hour, so about 15 minutes for each. Obviously I have done a lot of quilts, so you know, might be a bit quick, but I certainly don't profess to be a perfect quilter or a perfect rotary cutting person. This is literally how I do my quilts. Other people might do theirs in a different way, but they always come out beautiful, and I very much sew for my mental well-being, and everything from making the quilt to rotary cutting the quilt to binding the quilt is what brings me great joy. So my next step is going to be to bind them all, and I'll show you those probably in a Facebook Live or YouTube Live, but you will see them all finished at some point somewhere on our socials. So lovely to have seen you. See you soon. Bye.
You can find and follow the So Happy Quilters Association on social media and their website.